Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to get everybody situated. You see the agenda on your screen now. We've got all of the RSA-APR team with us today. And Corinne, I'm going to let you go ahead and take over.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Wayne. And sorry for the late distribution of the agendas. We had a little miscommunication, but anyway, it's brief. And we're going to first start with recapping what we did for the first training, for the first APR training, and talking about using the 524B form. So thanks for joining today. And this is going to be an ongoing discussion for the next few months since it's new to everybody. But I thank the APR greatly. It was great to go on their website and see all of the documents and the recording from, I believe, October 19th. So there you go. You've got everything right there. Joy, are you on? Did you want to recap some of the reminders from part one?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so part one reminders, October 19th. 2023 webinar. The documents and recording can be found on the APR website. The cover page, lines 8A through 8C, expenditures include obligations incurred but not necessarily drawn down in G5. All documents must be loaded in G5. Lines 9A through 9.6 as applicable. Indirect cost agreement, report accurate information for the FY 2023 reporting period. The IDC must be current or send documentation that is in process.
Thank you. Can you scroll down a little bit, or is it just my screen? I can't see all of it. Okay, just for part one. I wanted to stop there to add on to that a little bit, because I think that everybody knows about obligations versus drawdowns, that we just wanted to highlight that, what we see in G5 may not match what you're reporting on there, because you might have obligations, you might have funds encumbered, invoiced out that haven't been drawn down yet. So we want to make sure that you understand it is all of the obligations. And the IDC agreement, cost agreement, I've been spending some time looking through those from this past round of APRs, and a number of them are expired. And I don't mean September 30th of 2023, I mean June of 2022. So we really want to encourage you to make sure you keep these updated, stay in touch with your project officer if you're working on it, but it hasn't happened yet. But if it truly is expired for more than a year, we expect that you'll be using the de minimis rate, which is 10%. So we're going to stop there, part one, and see if you have any questions before we go on to the tables.
This is August. Let me go ahead and add that the importance of the indirect cost rate agreement being up to date. If your tribe is charging indirect costs against a grant and the indirect cost rate agreement is expired, if the rate changes between the time it expired and the new negotiated rate is implemented, the tribe would have to pay that money back. So it is very important that the current indirect cost rate agreement be included with the report, and the tribe have a current indirect cost rate agreement implemented.
And there's no questions in the chat box at this time.
Okay. All right. Very good. We'll go on to the status table. If you could scroll down a little. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute. Well, I'll go ahead and do that now. You cannot, oh, I see. All right. Well, yeah, you have to pull that down. All right. Yeah, this is it. I think. Yes. All right. we did not finish compiling some solid examples for you. So that's something that's in the works, and we hope to get those out after Thanksgiving, the week after Thanksgiving. As we continue to work on these, I really want to thank Susie Calhoun, Emma De La Cruz, and Carol Berquist for sharing examples and participating in calls with me so that we could provide some solid examples and see what the issues are. And with just the three of them, you know, they're very different. And it makes me realize how unique your reporting is going to be. And as I say in that part 2 on the agenda, that we're strongly encouraging you to send drafts to your project officers in advance of the deadline of January 5th, so that you can kind of work through the things together if you need to. So as you see on the table, you've got the targeted, what you propose to serve or do, and the actual numbers. The beginning part are the GEPRA measures. So Susie did this one. She entered all the GEPRA measures. And those are on that one pager that we shared with you last time and updated this time to let you know that the last 2 GEPRA measures are information that RSA compiles. We collect that. You do not. And I realized that too late when we sent the first one out. You can simply not include it at all on your table. I think you said, Susie, that it forces you to enter things in the table. You can't leave it blank. So it might be easier just to leave those 2 off and include the other GEPRA measures. So for the first few measures, I want to let you know that if you don't have a targeted number, or if it's not in your application, your original grant application, you can leave that blank. For our purposes and for our reporting to Congress purposes, it's really key that you enter the actual numbers there. That is what we're going to be focusing on for the GEPRA measures, your actual numbers in the past year and fiscal year 2023. Let's see.
Corinne, I've got a
Sure.
couple questions in the box here.
Sure.
In regards to the indirect cost rate that August just shared,
Uh-huh.
is there any way that we can get something in writing about that so it can be shared with the tribe?
Yes, I believe
Yeah.
that language is right out of uniform guidance, August.
Yes, it's right out of the regulations, 2 CVR 200 under the indirect cost rate section.
We'll send it to you. It's in uniform guidance.
And
To
then
CFR.
Rachel asked, would you repeat that, please? So Rachel, can you clarify what you're asking to be repeated?
While she's trying to look that up or typing it, let me go ahead and say regarding the question of the indirect cost rate, it's not that the tribe has to return. The tribe would have to repay any charges above what's negotiated to the grant. So yes, they would have to do that. But yeah, we can get that citation to you.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay,
sorry
so-
for the disjointedness. It dawned on me while I was answering that question that I already answered the question. So sorry about that.
Rachel said it's for the ones to possibly leave blank there on the form. Which ones do you say it was okay to leave blank if they don't have it?
This right here, C and D, this information we collect, these are all the GEPRA measures. By the way, I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. There are different ways you can configure your APR, and I'll talk about those later if you're interested. But we decided, let's keep it simple. Let's put down the GEPRA and all together, get it out of the way. I said on the target under GEPRA, you could leave that blank. And I say that it's on the agenda that I sent as well.
Thank you, Corinne. And then We got another one about the indirect cost rate. If they don't have one and the tribe submitted a proposal for this year, but they haven't heard anything back yet, what do they use? Do they use last year's?
And if it's expired, they would use the de minimis rate, which is 10%.
Yes, a de minimis rate until the new rate is negotiated and signed, and then most likely the cognizant agency would allow a retro charge against the grant for any difference between the de minimis rate and the negotiated rate.
And
All
that's,
right.
that's all we have right now.
Okay, so I also wanted to stop here and ask August to talk about how we calculate, just in case you're curious, how we calculate C and D and how we use that information.
Okay, so looking at the two C and D, it says the percentage of projects that demonstrate an average annual cost per employment outcome of no more than $35,000. And then D is for percentage of projects that demonstrate an average annual cost of services per participant of no more than $10,000. The way we calculate that is we take the number for number C, for the average number of cost per employment. We take the number of individuals that you successfully closed and reported in your annual performance report, divide that into the federal award, how much you were given, and that would determine how much it cost to serve each individual that was successfully closed. The same thing goes into the service for all the individuals provided services under an IPE during the reporting period. We divide the number that you provide us in the report into the amount of money that you were awarded to determine what your efficiency measure is for the $10,000. Now we have to report this data to Congress. So the number of individuals, or I'm sorry, the number of grantees that had an average cost per service above $35,000 would be shared with Congress, and the same thing with the $10,000 per served. For all those grantees whose average was above the $10,000, we would have to report that. So you don't have to do anything with those two questions. We take all the data that you send to us and we calculate that on our side, and we include it as a part of our annual report to Congress.
And the last annual report to Congress was for fiscal year 16 to 20. That's up on our website. And the team right now, oh no, we're about ready to publish fiscal year 21 data in the annual report to Congress, hopefully by the end of the year, early next year. And then the team right now is compiling all of your data from this last APR. So that's kind of the end of the process. When you send an APR in, we have to extract everything into an Excel and then do these calculations, just in case you're interested in what we do with this data. And it was one of the reasons why we went to the standard form, because before you were completing a very lengthy form with a lot of information that we were not using. You might be using it, but for these purposes in reporting to Congress, we were not using that data. So we're very hopeful it's going to be a bit streamlined for you. Okay. The next are the project measures, and I'm going to show you two examples. One from Susie and the other from Emma's grant application. So for the program objective, that could state in the form of a goal. For example, in Susie's, she used her abstract. They had laid out 3 goals in their abstract. And so we extracted goal number one, and it goes under objective. And then Susie figured out how she wanted to measure them. So there's no real formula in the measurement. It's what you determine is needed to measure that particular goal or objective. So she has number of individuals who receive VR services under an IPE during the reporting period. Their target was, why can't I scroll over? I don't know. Zoom as well as I know Teams. So anyway, she has the target and her actual number in this reporting period was 50. This one we just developed. She'll complete the data later, provide culturally and spiritually relevant classes through finding her inner balance. So she will measure the number of classes that they conducted in various ways to find her inner balance. And then she has an explanation here. Have not yet gotten back to pre-COVID numbers. It's always good to provide a little bit of an explanation, challenges that you might have had or things that went well. This is actually her third, I think this was the third goal. Outreach to increase disability awareness and promote effective cross-cultural services delivery. Work with community partners to provide informational sharing around resources at 6 events. They targeted 6 events. They held 3. Provide orientation and skill building trainings. Proposed 12 and actually had 15 trainings. And then she provided a little bit of explanation. So we don't have 3 to 5 measures here. We have 2 for each, but 2 might be enough, but the one that I'm going to show you next has, I think, 6. So anywhere between 3 and 5 measures are good. But again, you have to quantify them. What makes sense? Is it a raw number or is it a percentage of what you're trying to accomplish? Again, it's hard to, it's going to be very customized based on what you proposed in your grant application. So that is your starting point to dust off that grant application and see what you already have. And hopefully you can just copy paste in these measures. All right, so let me share the other one.
While you're sharing that, we got some questions in the chat box.
Oh,
Would you like me to
sure.
read those?
Sure.
Okay, so we have a question. Is that the federal award or is it the amount actually spent? If awarded 500,000 but only spent 400, that would be a different percentage.
Okay, I'm trying to understand. Are they talking about a performance measure?
Christopher, you want to clarify, please?
Yeah, so the question was asked when August was talking about how the measurements were taken. So he stated that it was based on the award. And I think in my past reports, I based it off of what we spent.
No, unfortunately, we don't have a mechanism to prorate based off of the amount that you've drawn down. It can only go based off of how much we awarded you.
So we're
yeah,
not a drawdown, we're a reimbursement.
well, you are reimbursement, but for purposes of these performance measures, the way they are written, we can only go based off of the amount that you were awarded.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah, for our reporting purposes. Unfortunately, I wish we could prorate it based off of how much you've actually spent. Unfortunately, we can't do that. We can only go based off of what we awarded you.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one is regardless of successful closure, we still may be spending a great deal of time on counseling and guidance. In the past, I used total caseload per year. Amanda, do you want to add to that?
Hi, I'm on 2 Zooms at the same time. So I totally didn't do it correctly. I've already turned my report in, but those 2 items that we don't have to do anymore, the 10,000 and the 35,000. When we did have to do them, I would take the total caseload. I would take my grant amount and divide by that total caseload, because it's not just about those 14 closures. It was about all the time we spent counseling and guidance, developing IPEs, starting something and having to start over and getting folks on board to progress in their job search and then ultimate employment outcome. Does that make sense?
So Amanda, are you saying that you were reporting on letters C and D?
Right, like the last
Okay.
few 5-year final reports,
Yeah.
when it was required. This report, I did it as well because
Yeah.
I had to have my
Well,
report in early, but
right.
I think I only used the successful closures instead of what I've been doing in
Yeah.
the past was the whole caseload, because you got 52 cases or 54 cases, but you're only closing 14 a year. You still have to account, we still spent time and money, whether it was just counseling and guidance or case management intensive on those
Yeah.
other consumers.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, I
That-
mean, and those could definitely be project measures. You could have project measures on those. We did not overly scrutinize that report because it was due early and before all of the training, but we really focused on the actual GEPRA measures and disregarded C and D because we calculate that ourselves. So I apologize we didn't get that information out earlier, but not to say that you couldn't include it under your project measures. If that makes sense.
And then the last question is, do the cost of living get taken into consideration when figuring this out? Because that would affect like Alaskan tribes more than the lower 48 tribes.
No, unfortunately, it doesn't. The amount of money it costs to serve an individual wherever you're at is going to be whatever its cost. So the calculation is based off of how much you were awarded and how much you either served or actually successfully closed. So those two measures take only those two. They're just cold, hard numbers, unfortunately, that drill down to things that we can report to Congress. So it does not take a cost of living into consideration.
And it basically takes an act of Congress to change the GEPRA measures, but we are open to that. That's a discussion for another day. We revised these GEPRA measures, I think in 2019 or 2020, which have to be vetted, and it's about a year-long process. Not a year long, maybe 6 months, but
And then we got for program objectives, which are our goals from the grant. If we have 4 goals, would we use, for example, 2A for one, 2B
Yeah.
for our second,
Yeah.
and so forth?
yeah. So that leads me to, can you see this screen, this new?
Yes.
Okay, so that ties right in with what I'm about to show you from Muskogee Creek. What they did in their grant application is they laid out all 5 years, their performance measures for all 5 years, which in a perfect world is, the way to go. It's not required. So, obviously the 250Ms are in their last year. So this is their project objective up here. They laid out their measures by year 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, by the end of year 1, a certain amount of VR applications for services will be completed, 30 IPEs will be developed, and 21 successful outcomes will be achieved. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, I'm not sure if they're adding all these together, but I would break those apart into different measures. So they have 5 measures, but they're annually. So I would suggest probably taking this measure and breaking it out into probably applications, IPEs, develop successful outcomes, or closures. So you could do it that way. But I wanted to show this example because if you start, day 1 with the 524B, and Susie and I were talking about this earlier, you could just, basically update the numbers every year, and that's all the work you would have to do. But for this year, since it's new, let's keep it simple. And again, here's the objective, number 1, some measures, then they go into objective 2, and then yes, to answer the question, it becomes 2A. And Again, they laid it out by years, but could have added more measures. And then project objective 3. I think that, oh, they have 4 project objectives.
If Corinne, this is Adrian, and I was just gonna mention for the 250 peak grantees on this call, that'll be a good way, because this is your, APR you're so much more newer
Yep.
route. So
Yeah,
just
that's true. That is true if you wanted to take the extra time to do it by year, but again, it might be in your application already. I found this table in their application, and Susie had some performance measures under her management plan and mainly the management plan. So it could be in your narrative that you have laid out all of your objectives and then potential measures in there. So they've got, I didn't realize it was this long. Oh, I see. They didn't have that many objectives. All right. Project objective 4. 5, 6. I'm scrolling. Apparently I didn't scroll all the way down. 10. They had 10 project objectives. If you have multiple, more than 7 or 8, you could combine them. We don't want this to be a huge burden, but I think most of you probably have 3 to 8 goals somewhere in there. I have not done an analysis, but we'll be learning as you work with us about those challenges. If you have more than, say, 10, we'll work with you on those challenges. So that is basically it. I just wanted to show you this example because it's by objective and then by year, that they broke down each of the 5 years, but only had one measure per year. It would be better to have more than that. What else would you like to measure, for example? So I see it, some things are coming through the chat. We do want to allow time for Susan. So that the second half of this newness of everything is navigating everything in G5. And Susie's going to do some screen sharing she's already uploaded some documents and to kind of walk you through that, because we are requiring G5 submission. We do not want you to send anything to the project officers. You've got a place for the indirect cost agreement and the other forms that she will show you. I won't go into that. So any questions? This was fast, and it's just the first of many discussions we'll have with you on this as we work with you moving forward. So what are there questions, Wayne?
Nope, there's nothing in the box right now. Just
okay.
back and forth support from director to director. Mary did ask, is the report entry form available for all of us on G5, G6 now? I responded that, yeah, it's up in G6 now. So that's all the questions we've got.
Okay.
So if you
Thanks.
want to quit sharing, then Susie can jump in.
Yeah, I think that, you just have to get a draft to us and work through it to see where your questions are. And Susie, I'm going to volunteer her. She's a great resource too, as we talk through, spend a lot of time talking through this, but we'll work with you. So I'll turn it over to you, Susie.
So this is August. Let me clarify real quick about those questions C and D, because I saw a question in there about taking into consideration the cost of living allowance. And for questions C and D, the way we calculated against all of the grants as a whole and not individually. So we're just looking at the numbers of
Average, right?
grants. Yes, we're looking at the average number of grants who had expenditures above the 10,000, above the 35,000, compared to those who didn't. And that gets reported as the AIVRS program as a whole, not for individual projects. So I just wanted to be clear on that.
And we have Teresa raised her hand. So Teresa?
Thank you, Wayne. Teresa Saravia, Juneau, Alaska. The indirect is a big hit on my grant, and I was wondering, do you take that into consideration when you're doing your data as well? I mean, mine will be 35% in 2024, and that's a big chunk of my grant. That's over $100,000. So is that taken into consideration when you're doing the data? And I keep hearing no, but then it's skewed when we're going to send in the data. Thank you.
Unfortunately, it's not, because indirect cost is included as a part of your 524 form when you fill out the grant application. When you complete those grant for the budgets for all 5 years, you include the direct and the indirect costs. And that's the amount of the federal award you're requesting. So we calculate those two GEPRA measures against how much you were awarded. And unfortunately, it does not take into consideration how much indirect you're paying out of each grant. And I know there are grantees out there who have really high indirect cost rate percentages up in the 40s, and some even maybe in the 50%.
Right.
But
Right.
the way this measure is written, it doesn't take that into consideration.
Might I add that you do a caveat in there somewhere when you talk about the data on your report, because it's skewed if that's not going to be considered as part of the calculation and the data itself, because again, it will be skewed. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely consider that. The cost of providing services includes all costs that are associated with your budget that you've submitted in your grant application. And unfortunately, those are taken into consideration as a whole, not as bits and parts of the budget. So, but we can, I'll talk to Corinne later, and maybe we can consider adding some notation that some indirect cost rate agreements are extremely high for
We-
the area.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
this also gets at Rachel's question about COVID being factored into things. When we report to Congress, we provide a pretty lengthy narrative. And I know the one that's going to be coming out from 21 talks about the impacts of COVID and the reason for lower numbers, some of the numbers coming down. So we do supply that narrative, and you bring up good points to, probably maybe add to those C and D concerns that you have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you both.
Sure.
We also have a grant writer raise their hand.
Hi, this is Vanessa Charlie with the Voc Rehab in Fallon, along with the grant writer. I have a question on I guess it's number 4 VR services in the report. Because we had lost our manager, and I was the counselor and just still new to counseling, and now looking over our program. This part, the VR services about the IPE and assessment and guidance counseling, the date that you guys we are looking at is the date on the IPE, or is the date as the application signature date that we're going on?
Are you talking about for the data reporting?
Yes.
Yeah, this is from this past fiscal year.
Yes.
Yeah, we would be looking at those individuals who served under an IPE during the reporting period, which is October 1, 2022 through September 30, 2023. So if you had any individual receiving services under an IPE starting October 1, 2022, they would be counted. So we're counting all those individuals who are only during this reporting period. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I was just wondering, because some of them are pretty close to that date. And I was just wondering, like on their application, they could have one date and then the signature at the bottom of the application is a different date compared to their IPE date.
Right.
So I'm been going off of the application date when they came on.
No, it would be the
They
IPE.
applied.
It would be the date that the IPE went into effect, which would be
Okay.
signed, yes.
All right, that clears it up. Thank you.
Okay.
I think that's it. You ready for Susie now? And we can circle back if you think of any other questions.
We don't have any other questions at this time, Susie. Want to go ahead and run with it? Grant Writer, if you can lower your hand.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're as confused and dazed as I am. You'll get through this. So let's start with just when you get into the G6, if you haven't gotten there yet. You go into grant maintenance, package submission, and it will bring up your grant. Click on the one that you're currently reporting on. You'll have to click on it again to edit and start working on the report. So you edit your report. It works wonderfully. This is what you will see on your screen. It will only have the section A1 or the first status section. You will be adding all of the other ones I've already added. So it asks at the very top for your project narrative signed 524 cover sheet. So you'll upload it once you get it back, get it in there. It asks for a project narrative. Now this has been confusing for me because I thought there's nothing to say exactly what they want. So I think that this might be your executive summary sheet that is also included with your 524-4B. So there's more to come on that. And you just start adding where they're asking. So getting down to actually doing the work, look at who this top section is that is actually the grant you're supposed to be in. I have to confirm that budget period I am doing is budget 2, but it states here it's budget 3. So that's going to have to be fixed out of my piece. So Corinne and her group is going to have to make sure that we're reporting on the right year as we do this. This is my current year I'm in. So my report, all of this is on year 2. Below that is who your project manager is as our officer, as well as our letters and our instructions. So here again, you will find the letter that we were given and what our instructions on how to do this. But this letter does not state about the project narrative. So we've had that conversation and we're continuing that, hopefully to get it clear for you. So when you begin, you'll just start with your status sheet. You click it, you edit the form. You'll add your information about who you are and your grant. So this is right out of your grant. You'll save and return. When you have completed it, you save it. If you need to upload things, it's here. And then you click form complete when it is complete. Leave it in draft state until then. You can always go back, but just for your own record keeping, you'll know where you are and what is done and what hasn't been done. So we will go into the next, that's wrong, the next one. This is where your project objectives start. So these are your goals. You can add a performance measure and it will keep making this form larger. If you have it under project or measure type, make sure you have what it is. It's not GEPRA anymore. This is what you're actually doing. I found with all of these forms that if I don't have a raw number in both sections, it will not save. So I'll go down to save. It won't save for me. I have to go back and I have to add a number. If I want to add another one, I add another performance measure, or if I'm done, I go down to add another project objective. So this is where you get your next goal. Save and return. Because I've added another objective, it comes up right here. So you're just building. So if you have the 16 different objectives, you'll have 16 pages in here. If you have 4 objectives, you will have 4 pages. So this is built on how you've written your grant and what you're going to demonstrate. I like the fact that if you're in your first year, I would put all of my pieces in just like you saw on the last demonstration. And that way you can just keep building. I'm going to go back and do that probably within the next week or so and get all of mine in and updated. And so when you get to year 5, it's pretty much complete. You just add your last numbers and you're done. So I like
Susie?
that piece. Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. Did you copy paste from your Word document?
I did.
Okay.
I did. The
Okay.
first example that you saw is where I did all of my work offline, because this every so often will tell you, you're not working quick enough. We're going to cut you off. I don't know if it's going to save it or not if it cuts me
That's
off.
right.
Because if I
Yep.
have to go somewhere. So I did a Word document and as a draft, and then I move it over when I have time to stick it in there and correct it. So I would
Strongly
suggest you all
encourage
do that.
Yeah.
And Corinne has
Yes.
sent us all the paper with the Word document in it, so you can do it on there and keep building. So you'll have that. And I just don't trust technology because I'm not the techno god of life. I'm the geek of, I do case management better. So I have that second copy for myself to come back to. When you get it all done, you just hit them as complete. You'll always have to edit every time you're in one, but you can delete. I just did that when my GEPRA, as Corinne was saying that we don't need to have those pieces. I went back up into my GEPRA and I took that off of I clicked on the measure. I hit the delete button and it took it away. So those two now for the 10,000 and the 35,000 are not on my report any longer. It's pretty user friendly if you have time to play in it. And I know that you're all busy and we don't always have time to play. So if you guys need help.
And I really appreciate this because we don't see what you see. So I appreciate Susie sharing what the process is. I don't believe you showed the cover sheet. You just upload that, right, Susie? You upload the signed. It must be signed.
Yeah,
Pardon
you have
me?
to upload the cover, the first 4 buttons, you have to upload all of it. So make sure that everything's complete and correct. I saw when I got into, I'm not sure which one it was. I'll go back and I'll just look until I find it.
Yeah, the project narrative, we don't know what that is for. I've asked for help on that one. We might just delete it. It might be just an extra placeholder in case you want to upload an additional document.
As you see, it just kicked me out when I tried to go back.
Yes, that happened earlier too.
G5 is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
But
And
I think
actually
it's
it's
going to be
G6
a
now, and it
tool.
doesn't seem to be much better.
No, and when you go in and out of it, that's why I have a delete file, and that's where I'm saving all of these different things that once I get it in, I will get rid of. But it's just easier for me to find. So going back to it, I have it bookmarked, and it's just, it's not user friendly. You sign
Yeah.
in each time. You have to have it. It's a 2-piece sign in.
Chris, while she's doing that, this is only for this year. You have only ever used G5 for your final report, so don't confuse it with that. This is not your final. This is just for this year, this grant cycle. Once you mark complete, can you go back and edit again? That's going to be a Susie question. I believe you can
Yeah,
do something.
you can move things in and out. So I don't know what this is gonna look like next year when we open it up for our next report. I would hope that it would be there just like this by the year. Cause see, it says here, it's the report type, our award number, budget period. Mine should say 2, not 3.
Yeah,
And when the draft is due, it gives us all of that information. So you click on there, you go to edit to your report. Come on, report. And hopefully it will have each year for us. So when we do our 5-year roll-up end grant or end report, we'll have all of these reports in there
there,
to pull that documentation and move over to that last report. So we don't have to recreate it every single year.
I think you will.
Oh, gosh.
I will check into that, but you will have a new link each year to add that information. Again, if you have a Word version, it makes it very easy. But I don't, each year it's going to say, you know, well, next year will be right. Hopefully we'll change it to 2 this year. Next year will be year 3. Then you go back and enter everything again because we need a new signed cover sheet. We need, you know.
Well, it would be nice if my year 2 would save in there. It's still in the system. I know
Oh,
we'll have to
it will.
update.
It
Okay,
will.
that's what I mean. So
Yes.
we can just
Oh, yeah.
cut and paste out of that
Yes,
into the next
absolutely.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if this is still there next year when we come in, it's going to be very easy for all of us. We update
Yeah.
what we have to. You've already got all of the information in there, so you can just cut and paste it into the new one. The GEPRA stuff is never going to change. That first form that I put all the GEPRA, and it's not in there, you guys. Nothing's in there. So you have to put that in there. And I just took it right off the sheet that we were provided of the GEPRA measures, and I just cut and paste one to the other and then added those pieces. So because we're in a 5-year grant cycle, your objectives aren't going to change, your goals aren't going to change, just your numbers are going to change. So we'll just have to cut and paste each year. So I'm thankful, Corinne, that this is going to be there next year. When I open it up, it's still going to be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to look different for, you know, the 250Ms are ending. So this is year 4, right? Yeah. We've been combining the final and the 250Ms we'll have to talk to separately next time. And then the 250Ps this is your first year 1 report. Yeah. Okay.
So there's one upload in some of them, and some of them when you go back, can't remember which one. I think it was the project narrative. I put my narrative in there. But see, it fills in a bunch of uploads. Like I've got to put in 50, 60 different things.
I will find out if you can just delete it, but it allows you to upload additional documents is what I'm guessing.
And you don't have to. So this is my indirect.
Mhm.
I've already got it done. It's complete. I'm not going to touch it anymore. So I've saved and returned it.
And does it show that it's in? Oh yeah, you already put
Yeah,
your
it shows it's completed.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it'll show you. That's why I said you can keep track of where you are, because it will show that it's complete or not. I think this is the one. Nope.
Susie, when you get to a natural break, let me know. We have several questions in the chat.
Go for it.
Okay. So we got I think you answered this already, but was it pre-populated with goals and objectives when you started working in this?
Nothing.
Nothing
you
was
have
in?
to create every bit of it from the very first sheet where you have your GEPRA to where you finish.
Okay. And
So
then we had a
each one
question.
you will do.
Okay, then we had a question also about your final performance report, but that was cleared up that this is actually the new reporting format that we're going to be using every year. It does look like our final performance report. format. However, it'll be every year that we provide this information. Once you mark delete or mark complete for a form, can you go back and edit again if needed? Or is complete done? You can't touch it again.
Good question. I haven't asked.
I wouldn't be
Let me-
surprised if it gave you a warning, but it might.
I'll check. I'll click on mine and see.
Okay.
I would assume you just uncheck the forms complete radio button.
I think that I would have to delete it and go back. It's looking like. Oh no, wait. Yeah.
Yeah, you just uncheck.
Well, let me see if I can unclick it. Yeah, no, it unclicks.
Yeah.
So I'll unclick it, save and return. It'll probably be a draft again. So yeah, you can play with that one and change it back and forth.
Okay. And then there's clarification. Are we reporting on every year in our current grant cycle or just the current fiscal 2023? And this will be, go ahead.
You are only reporting on the reporting period, which is October 1, 2022 through September 30, 2023. So in your goals and objectives, you are only reporting on the goals and objectives that are specific for that reporting period. Not all 5, just the one you're reporting on.
The previous example might have been confusing that I showed how all 5 years were laid out, but that is an option, but we just want the data for this performance period.
I think, Corinne, to make this easier, and correct me if I'm wrong, in August, if you go into your grant, and as you shared with me, Corinne, just go to your status chart and what you were supposed to do each year and report those pieces. So you're just going to report yearly of what you have identified in your grant that you're going to do and how you did it and the numbers that you have captured, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So that makes it a lot simpler, and I think that you're all smart people, and kind of let it go that we have to do this report, kind of breathe and ask for help. And make sure as you do your drafts, if you're unsure, to get a hold of your project officer. And they will get back to you and let you know. I know that we're looking at KNR coming up and losing a week. We're looking at the holidays coming up and losing staff for vacations. So I think the faster you get it done, the better. Because your window of January 5th, I believe, is going to come and go. Or 4th.
Yeah, it's coming up pretty fast. It's coming up pretty fast. Michael Heron had a question about where to find the forms. They're on if you look at the agenda that Wayne had just sent out or AVTech just sent out, there's a link to those forms, and it's a document that says 524B forms, and they're hyperlinked. So you have to right click on them. And if you right click on the Word version, those link copies will come up. If you have problems, let us know, but it's all in that one document and they're hyperlinks.
I just shared the link to the RSA resource page on the website in the chat.
Oh, great. Could I? Yeah.
And then, so Christopher has a question about the delete buttons. Do they give you a warning, or will it just delete it and then you have to start all over again?
When you delete it, ask if you want to delete.
Oh,
so it just doesn't disappear off the face of the earth. And if each section has its own delete button, like the GEPRA measures, each measure has its own delete button. When you do your next objective, each goal will have its own, or performance measure will have its own delete button. So it doesn't delete the whole piece. And you're able to manipulate back and forth.
Yeah, I see the question about the incorrect budget period. Again, I'm going to send a note to our G5 person. That should be corrected.
Well, I think that is, and I could be wrong, I'm only guessing, but I think it's because you're submitting your second year report while you're in your third.
That is true.
So you're
But
currently in your third reporting
that is
period,
true.
but you're reporting on your second. So yeah, we need
Right.
to talk to G5 about that so we can clarify and
Yeah,
not so confusing.
yeah,
Yeah, that is the
That's
confusion because I
very
don't
good
want
point.
I don't want to monkey the water, but you know, I'm in budget 3 right now. And some of us are budget 4 or
Right.
5, whatever. It would be nice for we don't have to remember that piece, that it's actually the performance measure for my year too. I
We're
would
the
like to be
federal
able to go into
government.
year
When
2.
have we made it easy?
Welcome to
I
our
want you to
world.
fix it for me, August. Just fix it.
I'll snap my fingers. I'll try to
Okay,
use.
because I want it clear as mud.
You
about clear as chocolate?
you have it, Susie. You're well on your way.
So
So
as with all these issues in G5, it's always good to reach out to your project officer if you have a stumbling point. Whether it's the budget year or if it's something else, just reach out to them and have a chat with them. They'll walk you through it.
yeah, and G5 issues, we're going to refer you right to the help desk. If you are just having problem gaining access, for example, and that information was covered in the last webinar, and it's on the
And
on the
G5
website
only will
with all
help
the
you
help
with that
desk.
part. They can't tell you anything about our forms because believe me, I tried to reach out and have them do that.
Okay.
And they said, no. We'll get you in,
So
we'll get
we'll-
you out. And that's all we do.
We'll help you with the forms.
Mhm.
And you know how to do the cover page and executive summary already, so you're good to go there.
Just to let you know, we're at the 30-minute mark.
Are we, do we have any other questions? We could certainly end a little early. I think there's just a lot of, individual work that needs to happen at this point and reach out to us if you need it.
So we got a couple things in the chat box. Susie, you can quit sharing your screen if you want to, or you can keep sharing. It's up to you. As a reminder, Adrian wants everybody to remember that with the holidays, there's about 32 business days away from the report being due. And they want to reach out and set up a time to connect while at KNR. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to your project officer. AVERTAC will also be sending out a schedule to connect all with the ITA sites as well. So if that's a joint meeting you want to have, please contact and let both of us know. Christopher asked, remind me again, there has always been a form signed by an authorized tribe person.
Yeah.
How is that done in G5?
That's the cover page. So you have to get the signature completed, get the signature, scan and upload. So all of that will be scanned and uploaded into G5 together. They don't go into G5 to sign it. It's a separate two-part process. So I'm glad you brought that up, Christopher.
You got to scan it in. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we got
Scan
a
and then upload.
couple people thanking Susie for sharing her screen. And then we have a question, is the GEPRA chart a part of the annual performance report?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
The measures that we covered. Yes.
Okay. And then Teresa has her hand raised.
Hi, thank you, Wayne. I have a new person that I'm working with in finance, and she is going to have access to G5, I think. And is that person okay to upload the Ed 524B?
If they're not in G5 already, there are only two people that can have access. If
Yeah.
you have your email, some authorizing representatives have a generic email that others can use. But if it's under your name and the certifying rep name only two of you would have access to G5.
Okay, because we have a new chief financial officer starting as well, and one exiting, and then the other one, Teresa, was on. So now we have 3 different people. It's a little confusing for me, and I don't.
Yeah.
And the Alicia Richards is the new person that I'm working with in our finance department, and she just told me, she goes, I'll get access to G5, and I wasn't sure if it was me that should send it to RSA or if they can send it to RSA to request her having that access.
Again, only two people can have access. So if she's going to work on it, she could work in a Word document and you could
Okay.
copy paste, but only two people. Again, some organizations have a generic email that they've created in their organization that does allow for others to be able to use it.
Yeah, there's new players, so that's forthcoming, I'm sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have any in the chat box now. Does anybody else have questions to ask right now? Please raise your hand or unmute and say, hey, it's me.
So this is August. Let me reiterate. There's 3 data elements that we absolutely need from you, and that you include in every grant application that you submit. That's the proposed numbers you plan to serve on an annual basis, the actual number that you served during that year. So we need those numbers. We need the proposed numbers you did you anticipate closing successfully, and the actual numbers that you closed successfully. So that's the second data element. The third data element is the number of individuals served under an IPE but were closed unsuccessfully, which would be under the old status number 28. So closed unsuccessfully. Those 3 data elements we absolutely need for our calculations for submitting our report to Congress. All the other quantifiable data that you have, you can include in the chart, but those 3 data elements that are included as a part of GEPRA are absolutely necessary for us to report to Congress.
Thanks. And we're actually asking for 4, but I guess we only report on 3 of those 4. We've got A, B1, B2, and B3. So.
Yeah, one of them we calculate, yeah.
Which one? So are you saying out of the GEPRA measures that the document we shared, there's another one that they don't need to report on? We've got of all those exiting.
I'll have to take a look at it.
Okay. Okay. They have the GEPRA document. And I updated that to have the note, don't worry about letters C and D. So I have to go. I'm getting called to another meeting. But I would like to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving, and please take a break, and then we'll get to it the week after Thanksgiving. I know I'm taking a break. So thank you so much, everyone. If we're done, I'm going to hang up and maybe, but
We had another question come in.
okay, I am going to depart. Thank you all very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Fran.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Do the unsuccessful closures count against us? Oftentimes it is out of our control when a person moves, for example.
No, absolutely not. No, they do not count against you. It's just for statistical purposes and for us to calculate our success rate, because in order for us to calculate the success rate, we have to take into consideration the number successfully closed and all individuals who have left the program, whether they're successful or unsuccessful. So that's just for our calculation purposes, but that number will not be held against you. We do understand that there are mitigating circumstances that affect an individual's ability to finish their plan. So yeah, please don't be worried about that. Report the numbers accurately. You will not be held responsible for those people leaving. Unless you're a bully, then, that changes the whole thing, but we're not bullies. Thank you, Agent, for laughing. And Bobby.
All right. Looks like the questions have dried up. Anybody else have questions?
For a dry topic, figured this would be dry since the beginning.
Well, no, you guys made it very entertaining, and we were all so engaged.
Well, we have to give credit to Susie for making it entertaining.
No credit needed. We're in it together, you guys, and we've got to get it right, so.
All right, thanks, everybody. It looks like we can end early, and we'll see you all at KNR. August, can you hang out for just a second?
I can. Thanks, everyone. Take care.